If you've lived in northeastern New Jersey for a while, you've likely seen flooded intersections or homes. Perhaps your home has flooded. Or maybe you're new to the area or want to learn more about your chances of flooding now and in the future. Climate change will only make the impacts worse. Addressing the issue requires actions at all levels: local, state, and federal. Our video, Flood Risk and Resilience Planning, talks about what government and agencies are doing to prepare for climate change. You can also do your part.
So at the scale of a household or an individual, one thing that I think makes sense is to start by educating yourself about the degree of exposure that you have to climate hazards like extreme weather events, extreme heat, flooding, etc. And then at the scale of a household, if you happen to be the property owner, you can, install a rain garden or disconnect the downspout from that's capturing rainwater that falls on your roof and capture that water to possibly wash a car or, water your plants and gardens.
The first step is to understand your flood risk. njfloodmapper.org is a great resource to learn more and view different flood information. Next, create a plan to make sure your family is safe if flooding occurs. This means knowing what to do when a storm is on its way and what to do during and after the storm. Visit ready.nj.gov to learn more about making your emergency plan. Pay attention to flood watches and warnings. Most mobile devices receive alerts when authorities issue serious warnings. Closely monitor that information to determine if you need to evacuate, avoid travel or shelter in place, or move your car or other outside belongings. If you are in immediate danger, evacuate your home or call 911 for help. Other times, it may be recommended that you shelter in place on a higher floor. Keep important supplies like food, bottled water, a flashlight, first aid kit, and radio at home in case this happens. If you are outside, do not drive or walk through flooded areas. Stay informed by monitoring radio, television, internet, or social media updates. Report flooding to local officials by calling 211 or through interactive flood reporters if your city has one, so they know where flooding is taking place. Now that you're safe, what about your home?
There are multiple steps that can be taken by the homeowner to protect their property, their investment from flooding.
First step, find the vulnerable parts of your property.
This is typically your entry doors, your garage doors, any types of windows, really any openings that are below the base flood elevation. We like to take a look at first, and that's typically where the floodwater is coming into.
Once those entry points are located, you will need to seal them up.
There are different options. There's an option that doesn't require permanent hardware. It mounts in the door jamb, for example, and it cranks out. It has an inflatable seal. And that is, a typical option that we see homeowners go to. That gives you about 28 inches of flood protection height.
If water does get inside, there are also steps you can take.
If you have a basement, installing a sump pump could be very beneficial. Now, for flooded basements, if you have active flooding or after a flood event, you could utilize an electric submersible pump or a gas-powered trash pump, to handle those, more heavily flooded situations.
Protecting major appliances is critical.
It's also recommended to move critical utilities above and beyond that base flood elevation.
Be careful when checking for damage, and if your home has flooded, avoid walking through water as it could be contaminated, electrified, or covering floating debris.
Floodwater, it is not clean. It can be hazardous. And when that gets in your livable space, You definitely want to take note of that. And, typically if drywall gets wet by floodwater, you have to cut that out and replace it.
Beware, toxic mold can grow if you don't take those steps. Make sure to carefully document damages with photos and receipts so that you can submit them to your insurance company if you carry flood insurance. If you do not carry flood insurance and there is a presidential declared disaster, call 1-800-621-3362 for more information on accessing recovery assistance. It may take a few days after a disaster for a declaration to take effect. Your role in increasing resilience does not end with preparing for potential flood events. You can also help reduce flooding impacts by keeping trash off streets that could block our drainage infrastructure, installing rain barrels to capture rainfall from your rooftop, and helping others get prepared. Visit the Resilient Northeastern New Jersey Project website to learn more about flood risk and the program's goals.